Recently, this channel hit 10,000 subscribers. It has come at the expense of pallbearer safety, but necessary to further the advancement of game developers such as yourself. To celebrate this milestone, I've asked y'all for any questions you would like for me to answer, and surprisingly, most of them were for lore behind the channel, as well as what I have planned for the future as a developer. So sit back as I regale you with an epic tale of how things came to be, and what wacky adventures we may be getting ourselves into soon. Lagster asks, what gravitated you to Godot, and how did you learn programming? I started learning to program with Conitec's Light C game engine. I didn't manage to get much done during this time though, because growing up I didn't have access to internet most of the time, so I wasn't able to get useful information about the engine. I literally learned how to code by looking at their offline documentation and trying to reverse engineer what an integer was. It did not go well. A couple of years later, I decided to go to college for programming and hopefully use what I might learn towards creating games. I had a few months before the next semester started, so I went to their library, found the programming section, and checked out a book written by the creator of the C++ language. And holy smokes, this book clicked with me something fierce. I don't know if it was because of my previous experience with the Light C engine or what, but I completely understood what the book was teaching. I then went on to learn several different languages, mainly C++, Java, and C#. I tried some game engines like GameMaker and Unity. I even made my own bare-bones game engine in Java. It wasn't pretty, but it did allow me to make some very basic games. I used Unity for the most part for around a year or so, but never quite felt comfortable with the engine. Finally, after getting frustrated enough, I decided to try looking for a new engine. Personally, I'm not a big proponent for open source software. I like it, I think it's an interesting concept, and it's very useful, but ultimately it's not something that I concern myself with too much. However, I had learned that by searching for open source software, you could find some interesting things with a strong community, which is how I stumbled upon the Godot engine. I was skeptical about the language, being more familiar with the C-style languages that I had been using for years, but within a day I was in love because it was so straightforward and easy to use. Rick says, congratulations! Finally, you truly deserve it. Well, thank you kindly, Rick. Rick is an old friend of the channel. He's currently working on an exploration-based platformer named Quantum Ruins, which you should go support if you haven't already. There's a link in the description. What are your favorite games of all time? Also, is there a specific genre style that you've never worked on but you would like to learn? My favorite game of all time is Terraria, which is a base-building game like Minecraft except for it's a 2D platformer and has more role-playing elements like class builds, magic, interesting enemies, and exciting boss battles. As of writing this, it's my most played game on Steam, not including the hundreds of hours I've spent playing it on console as well. Skyrim is close behind if you combine it with Special Edition, but Skyrim doesn't count because I've spent more time trying to mod the game without it crashing than I've actually spent playing it. And I genuinely don't even know how Ark is up there. Most of that time was probably spent just loading the game before I got an SSD and then crafting a bed. Other than that, my favorite games are the oldies of my childhood, namely Legend of Zelda games, Pokemon but the first gen only, and RPG games like Final Fantasy and Star Ocean, which is what I played the most growing up. I love these epic stories and getting to know the characters in these games. RPGs are far too much of a time investment for me nowadays, but back then I could spend an entire day playing them and getting lost in their worlds. As for a genre that I've never worked on but want to, I also used to play some of the old strategy games like Romance of the Three Kingdoms and Gemfire. One of the games I want to create eventually is something like these, where you have a kingdom that you need to manage, gather food and supplies, etc. You don't see these too often nowadays that I'm aware of. You have your grand strategies, but I feel they're too complex for what I have in mind. I'd like to create a simple strategy game with streamlined gameplay and a basic but entertaining battle system. However, the worst part about these games is that you pretty much just choose a feature of your empire that you want to improve that month, usually farmland, and this was the most of the gameplay. I want to fix that, but I haven't worked out how I'd go about it yet. The next question is from Ludos, who is a good friend of mine on Twitter. Thank you for all the support and kindness, Ludos. I really appreciate you. He says, congrats! Question time. What inspired you to make tutorials, and are you planning to make different content too, such as Let's Plays? Looking forward to the Q&A video. I started making tutorials because I became extremely comfortable with the Godot engine. Maybe half a year into using it, I felt like I had mastered the engine. I hadn't, of course, but I felt extremely confident. I felt like there was a lack of high-quality tutorials though, and most of the tutorials that did exist were about teaching new people how to use the engine. So I decided I would try to do my part by helping the community by creating tutorials that were aimed at improving your critical thinking, helping people become a better game developer, and without wasting your time, because me personally, I get bored sitting through all the tutorial fluff when I just want the basic concepts of an idea distilled and injected straight into my veins so that I can carry them over to my project and implement them in a way that works for me. Am I planning to make other content? As a matter of fact, I am. Very soon, I will be trying my hand at devlog content. I've been working on an action RPG game for the past few weeks, getting it ready to show y'all soon in the form of devlogs. I've been streaming about it periodically and will continue to do so, but I think my personality and humor combined with a devlog could make for an interesting combination. As for Let's Plays, not likely. I'm not an interesting gamer, nor do I play games all that often, and when I do, it's usually old games. Maybe as a community thing, I could see myself streaming gameplay on Discord, but probably nothing beyond that. Joe has our next question. He's a member of our Discord and made the game Swap Die Repeat when our community participated in the recent Kindred Jam. He asked, how did you come up with the bear used in most of your tutorials, and what about your profile picture? Well, I'm glad you asked. Paul Bearer actually does have a bit of backstory to him. He's very special to me and one of my favorite creations. I'm not going to delve too deep into his lore because I'm still saving it for a game that I hope to create eventually, but I will say that his name has a couple of puns in it. If you watch this channel, then you know that I love me some wordplay. During the half a year before I started this channel, as I mentioned earlier, I was working on a roguelike platformer with Paul Bearer as the protagonist. It's not a pretty game because I was still learning how to make art and how to pick nice colors. Honestly, these colors were a crime and I have no idea what I was thinking. I drew animals because I can't draw people that well. I mean, I can't draw animals either, but when you're trying to draw people, you notice a lot more of the mistakes than when you draw animals. So I drew a few animals, namely a bunny and a hamster. I didn't want to use Paul Bearer because I intended to continue development of the game. However, making videos for the channel took a lot more time than I had anticipated, so after a couple of weeks of not working on the game, I decided I would use the bear instead because I wasn't too happy with the hamster, which is why my first two videos feature the hamster and not Paul Bearer. Back to the animal thing right quick though. This is one of the first things I drew when I got my drawing tablet. It's not Paul Bearer, and I had completely forgotten about this by the time I made Paul Bearer, but I think the resemblance is hilarious. As for my logo, it's inspired by Kids Can Code, which is my favorite Godot YouTuber. I was looking around the internet for interesting logos to take inspiration from. I like the cog in KCC's logo because to me, it symbolizes engineering, creation, and workings of a machine, much like coding and game development. However, I didn't just want a cog, so I had to spice it up a little bit. I added the power button for it to symbolize technology and computers. I went with orange as the main color because it's attention grabbing, essentially clickbait for everything I do. The next question is from Artindi, who is another YouTuber, link in the description. He creates devlogs about his game Paradigm, which has just released its first test version, so go try it out and give him some feedback on his game. He asked, if you are expecting the unexpected, then is it still considered unexpected? What an unexpected question, though I suppose if you ask for questions, you're expected to get some odd ones. It depends on how much of it you expected. When I think of this expression, I think of how you should expect the unexpected in general. It doesn't mean that you should know what to expect, but that you should expect something to be unexpected. Any Key asks the next question. They're another member of our Discord and a regular in my streams, and one that I just narrowly missed during the recent road trip. They ask, what problem can you not solve using a state machine? Absolutely nothing. I use a state machine to implement all the cool player mechanics, enemy AI, NPCs, lasers, spikes. Given enough time, I could probably solve the theory of everything using a state machine. I've used a state machine to simulate evolution. Shoot, I've even answered these questions with the help of a state machine. That said, I would like to look into behavior trees at some point for enemy AI. I've just never gotten around to it. And finally, we have 3 questions that ask roughly the same thing from Imitation Crabmeat, Benjamin King, and Super King. The question is boiling down to, have I ever published a game? Am I working on a game? And will I be publishing a game anytime soon? I have never published a game, nor have I really had an interest to be honest. For most of my time as a game developer, I've been a bit different than what you might come to expect from other developers. Rather than trying to complete a game and feeling that I need to complete a game to earn my developer badge, I'm mostly into game development for the joy of the programming. I enjoy programming game logic, and that's about the only reason I do it. I love creating things, even small things that never function beyond their basic concepts. However, I do think that it is finally time for that I take my development journey to the next level and publish my very own completed game, which is what I've started working on a few weeks ago. I want to make an action RPG that has more RPG elements than you might generally expect from an action RPG. I want to truly blend the action genre with the old RPG elements of my childhood. I will be uploading devlogs on the game very soon. The game is nearly at a point where I'm ready to show it off to the world. I've just been working on art and animation for the enemies, which has been something else. Character art is not my strongest suit right now, but with enough practice I can get it good at anything. The project doesn't have a name yet, but I expect to start thinking of possibilities soon. I'm the worst at naming things though, so I will likely not rush and try to ensure that I have a good name worthy of this creation. Now that I have an amazing community supporting me, I will be getting feedback on the name from my Discord as well. And I've been streaming development of the game over on Twitch if you want a sneak peek at how it's made, or if you want to offer suggestions and feedback to its development. Having the ability to communicate with my viewers during development has been amazing and entertaining. There's a link in the description, so go there and follow me to get notified when I stream. Thanks again for 10K, now let's go make this game together.